All right, let's get started. Hello, everyone. My name is Paige. I am a registered dietitian and culinary educator at Boston Medical Center. I'm coming to you live from my at-home teaching kitchen. In today's class, we will be making turkey enchilada poblano stuffed peppers. And today's class is sponsored by WellSense Health Plan. Thank you all so much for joining us. All right, we are going to start out by making the sauce that we need for our stuffed poblano peppers. If at any point you have a question, you are welcome to put it in the chat. If you are in the Spanish room, you are welcome to ask the interpreter or throw it in the chat and she will assist me with that question. All right, let's go ahead and make our sauce. We're going to start by adding oil to a small pot. All right, and now we are going to add some garlic. Get my spoon ready. Got a nice steamy shower going on here. We added some tomato sauce to our garlic. We're going to add our broth. I have some unsalted chicken broth here. We are also going to add our chopped chilies in adobo sauce with some extra adobo sauce. Giving this a nice stir. All right, and now we are going to add our aromatics and our dried herbs and spices. We have some salt, we have some ground cumin and some chili powder. If you like your food on the spicier end, you're welcome to add more chili powder. When we first started making this sauce, we took our garlic, which is an aromatic, and we added it with heat and oil, which really helps bring out the flavors and the smells of those aromatics. The heat wakes up the spices and makes them taste stronger while softening them. Other aromatics are things like onions and shallots. Allowing them to soften helps them absorb into the dish better and mix better. And it also really adds lots of flavor to whatever you're making. All right. So we have our sauce all put together. And now we are going to let it simmer for about 15 minutes. I'm going to pop the lid on it. We probably don't need as much time. We'll shoot for about 10 minutes. Actually, while we let our sauce simmer, I'm going to transfer my pot to one of my back burners on my stovetop so we can start making our filling. I'm going to turn my heat off and I'm going to switch my pots. All right. Now let's bring in a skillet. Meanwhile, prior to class, for the sake of time, I roasted my poblano peppers and I prepared them by cutting them in half and removing the seeds and roasting them in the oven. A little tip for someone who doesn't like extra spice or extra heat is to roast your peppers longer. The longer you cook them, it kind of reduces the intensity of the heat in the pepper. We will set those to the side. We're gonna add some oil. I have a clean utensil. And we are going to saute some onions. Diced onions here. My onions are actually frozen. A meal preparation or food saving time hack I have for you is whenever you have to dice onions, dice a lot of them at one time and then throw the rest into the freezer for later use. Going to take a little bit longer to allow these onions to brown, but that's okay. For those of you who are just hopping on the class, welcome. If you need to go into the Spanish room, you may click the globe icon at the bottom of your screen and choose your preferred language if that is Spanish. Our interpreter will be able to help you with any questions you may have. While we're waiting for this to saute, I'm gonna just take a peek at our red sauce. It's simmering very nicely back there. We still have about 6 more minutes. Our poblanos are going to be very well seasoned. We are following a recipe for today's class, but you can definitely lean into your own taste preferences. If you like things with more heat and more spice, you can add more spice to it by maybe adding more dried cayenne chili powder. You could add a hot sauce. You can even top the final product with some jalapenos. All right, this is looking good. I'm going to add my turkey. You can substitute this turkey for beef or any other ground meat. Or if you would prefer a more vegetarian-friendly option, you can substitute any meat for any beans or lentils. Just a reminder that if you have a question, feel free to put them in the chat or unmute yourself. If you are in the Spanish-speaking room, the interpreter will help me out with your questions. All right. We're going to let our meat brown. Oh, just checking the chat here. Here is the link for the recipe. Someone said the recipe doesn't mention when to add the tortillas. Let me just double check here. I'm pretty sure it's at the end of this portion, but let me review. Okay, so in step 4, that's when we're gonna stir in our tortilla pieces. We're going to prepare our meat, season it. We're going to add our sauce. Then we're going to simmer and then at the end remove the lid and add the tortilla pieces. It's just hidden in there. Right. For anyone who is cautious or struggles to cook ground meat, something like chicken or turkey is really great because it goes from a pink to a brown color. So that's a really great way to know that you're cooking it and cooking it completely. If you have a food thermometer, I would recommend buying one. If not, they are super inexpensive. When you're cooking things like turkey or chicken, you want to cook to about 165 degrees Fahrenheit. All right, I'm going to take a peek at our sauce. There's only 3 more minutes left on that, so I'm going to just check it out. Sauce is looking good. Lots of good smells in the kitchen right now. Just making sure I have my ground meat broken up so that it can cook evenly. I'm going to copy and paste the housekeeping notes for those of you who need to, for those of you who need to enter the Spanish room, just in case you need some assistance. This is looking pretty good. Our onions are translucent and our meat is getting pretty. We are then going to add our diced fresh tomato and garlic. I did not have a whole tomato, so I diced up a few cherry tomatoes that were almost ready to be tossed, so repurposing those. I also am using pre-minced garlic for today's class. I oftentimes lean on things like pre-minced garlic or already diced onions if I'm looking to save time in the kitchen. They may be a bit more expensive, but oftentimes they are helpful for when we don't have a lot of time to cook throughout the week. All right. We are looking good here. Let's go ahead and add our tomatoes and our minced garlic. We'll give it a stir. I'm gonna pop behind me and turn off the stove for the sauce. Great. I'll give everyone a quick view. Oops, lots of steam there. This is our sauce. We let it simmer to let those flavors really absorb together. I'm gonna turn up my heat a little bit. Then we are going to add our poblano sauce to the ground meat mixture. We're going to add a little bit of water. And we're going to add some more herbs and spices and then let it simmer for about 5 to 8 minutes. Looking good. Let's add our oregano and our cumin. I did not have any fresh cilantro on hand, so I'm going to skip that. If you have another herb or spice that you love that you would like to add, you can. You could add some taco seasoning. You could add some more heat or more spice if you would like. I'm not a huge fan of spice, so I am going to just hold back on adding more spice. Going to add my sauce here, pouring slowly to not splash. We're going to give this a nice stir. And I'm going to add my water. We will top with a lid and we are going to let it simmer so all those flavors can absorb and intensify. I'm going to clean up my workstation just a bit. Just a reminder, if anyone in the English speaking room or Spanish speaking room has a question, you are welcome to put them in the chat. We have our poblanos here. When we stuff them, I'm going to wear gloves just to make it easier. But while we wait for our sauce, we can tear up our tortillas. After we let our mixture simmer, we will add our shredded tortillas. You can use corn or flour tortillas. You could even use tortillas that are close to being too old, as long as they don't have mold, because they will absorb all of the delicious flavors of the sauce and the mixture that we are simmering, and add a really nice flavor and texture to inside our poblanos. If poblanos have too much heat for you, meaning too spicy, you can opt for a more neutral flavored pepper, such as a green bell pepper or even a red bell pepper. You could even do a banana pepper. Poblano peppers are a very mild chili pepper, but they still have some heat to them. They are a non-starchy vegetable that are lower in carbohydrates and calories, but they are a great source of things like vitamin A and vitamin C, which are great for our immune health and our skin health. They're also going to give us fiber and lots of other good nutrition. Outside of this recipe, poblano peppers are a very versatile vegetable. They work really well with roasted salsas or in these stuffed dishes like today's dish. They're very easy to prepare. Roasting them or charring them helps make them a lot softer and reduces some of that heat. So we have our tortillas ready. We'll clean up our workstation a bit. It's always helpful to clean as you go. Some tips to make this dish lower in sodium is to choose tomato sauce that has no salt added or low sodium, as well as choosing a broth that is unsalted or low sodium. So that way you can be more in control of how much sodium is being added to the dish. We'll give our mixture a stir. Smells really good. What do you all think so far? Is this something that you would make at home? Do you want to put in the chat if this is something that looks like you would definitely try at home? Make sure my heat is turned up. All right, Trisha says she would make it. Awesome. I am familiar with these stuffed peppers. That's rice and ground meat in a bell pepper. So this take on a stuffed pepper is truly a very fun, delicious way to add more flavors and textures into a dinner or a lunch recipe. Oh, we have some other people saying they would definitely try. Awesome. Being patient here and just waiting for our meat sauce to really simmer and absorb its flavors. I'm gonna turn my heat up a little bit. We do want our sauce to simmer and not boil. And a good way to look at that is that we want small little bubbles, not big bursting bubbles like a rapid boil you might think of when you are preparing a pasta water. We want a slow boil or a slow simmer, I'm sorry. Perfect. I have my cheese already prepped and ready for topping. You can buy pre-shredded cheese if that's easier. I usually have a block of cheddar in my fridge. You could sub whatever cheese you prefer, or you could go no cheese if you're trying to keep this as a dairy-free option. You can also get fun with your toppings. At the very end, when our peppers are ready, we have some sour cream or Greek yogurt to top them with to add a nice tangy light touch to it. And it's also going to add a little bit more protein. We are going to do this Greek yogurt because it's super similar and tangy to a sour cream, but it's what I had on hand. And I love trying to buy ingredients that can be repurposed. We also have some avocado here. All right, let's move this over. We'll go ahead and add our tortillas. Allow it to absorb all that delicious goodness. So you can see. Perfect. All right. I'm gonna let that sit for about a minute so that those tortillas again are absorbing flavor. I had an oven emergency this week where my oven broke. So we are going to be finishing our poblanos today in my little toaster oven. So I'm gonna preheat that now. Because we are cooking everything and just finalizing the meltiness of the cheese and all of that in the mini oven, it's not a huge issue. But say you don't have a toaster oven or an oven, you could try your air fryer. You could even get a new skillet, put your peppers back in the skillet, overheat, and add the lid. We'll turn the heat off. We'll put the lid on. And we're gonna give it just a minute and then we're gonna stuff our peppers. Have our cheese ready. Give me just a moment. I'm gonna grab Quick sip of water. All right. All right, we have our oven preheated. Let's stuff our peppers. I have a spoon here. I'm going to take my filling and move it closer to my peppers. Being very cautious and careful because your filling is very warm. I'm going to add some filling to my roasted poblanos. Sprinkle some cheese. Going to sprinkle over my filling so that way any extra is caught inside the filling. I did have to reduce how much meat and filling I am making due to the fact that I have a tiny oven. So instead of making 4 poblanos, I am making 2. So we will yield 4 stuffed because I cut them in half. So I will have extra filling. I think the extra filling would be really yummy to almost make like a shakshuka where you could poach some eggs in the sauce. You could throw this all back in the skillet and poach some eggs, allowing this to come up to a simmer again and cracking your eggs right into this. I think this is also really delicious. You have some tortilla chips or as a burrito or a taco filling. Let's check the chat here. We have, okay, so someone says, I think it would be pretty hot if sticking with the recipe amount of chipotle and adobo sauce sourced from the chipotle can. I thought that as well, but I think it just depends. I specifically in the can pulled out 2 peppers and diced them, and then kind of scooped out some of that remaining sauce. I did not find it to be super hot, but what I did find to be hot was that if the first time I made this, I did not roast my poblano peppers long enough to really help mild the heat, to tone it down per se. I did not do that, so I felt like my peppers had a lot of kick to them. But you can definitely, to be on the safe side, cut them back. Or you could even just totally forego them altogether. So here is our stuffed pre-final product. I think they look really nice. The green of the poblano, the nice orange of the cheese, and the beautiful red hues we're getting from the filling. We're gonna go ahead and put these in our toaster oven, enough to get our cheese nice and melty. All right. This is the perfect opportunity to take some time and clean up your workstation. I'm going to leave my extra cheese just in case I need a little more on my final product. I'm going to pile some of my dishes in the sink. And I'm gonna wipe my counter. As I mentioned, cleaning as you go is a very helpful way to help make cooking feel less of a huge lift. Oftentimes it's difficult for me to clean as I go during my cooking demos, but when I cook my other meals, I try to make sure I clean the counter or load the dishwasher or finish some of the dishes before I get too far ahead. Right. For my avocado topping, I went ahead and took a knife and created some cubes. So that way when I squeeze it, they should pop right out. Perfect. Has anyone made a version of this at home using poblano peppers or a stuffed pepper in general? I know I've made stuffed bell peppers. Kathleen says no. It is a really fun way to get some good nutrition and leaning in on veggies as the vehicle for the filling versus thinking of a sandwich. Gonna wait here for a bit before we pull out our final products. Catherine says she's had stuffed bell peppers. That's awesome. Oh, she says she's going to try this weekend. That's amazing. All right, just checking the chat here. All right. Looks good. No questions so far. That's awesome. You are an easy bunch. No questions. I must be answering every question you might have had. Oh, Catherine has a suggestion. How would this taste using rice versus tortillas? It's a good question. I think it would be similar in texture, but different because of how small the granules of rice are. I do think it could be worth trying if you don't have tortillas on hand. For example, I used 4 tortillas for this recipe, but I purchased a pack of 30. So I'm going to want to try to reuse these for other recipes before they get stale. Rice could be a little easier because it's more shelf stable. Ashley says she's made green stuffed peppers before with the hamburger filling. Yes, I'm familiar with that one as well. But now that you're seeing this recipe demo, there's so many ways you can stuff a poblano or a bell pepper or a wax pepper, lots of peppers that we can stuff. Checking on the peppers, they're looking good. I'm gonna flip my oven from bake to broil to help really get that cheese nice and melty on the top. I'm gonna bring my spotlight view to me and I'm gonna show you all my little oven. So this is our oven that we're using because my big oven is out of commission right now. So it just goes to show you that you don't need a full kitchen sometimes to cook. I am using a portable burner that I've plugged in from an extension cord and a toaster oven for today's recipe. So goes to show you, you don't always need a full kitchen to cook. All right. Okay, here we are. Look at that melty cheese. Looks perfect. These smell amazing. Now for serving. I'm going to scoop a pepper. How beautiful. Let's slide our avocado over. Avocados are a great source of heart-healthy fats. This recipe is a great example of a balanced meal. We're getting fiber, vitamins, and minerals from our peppers, our tomatoes. We are getting some grains, some carbohydrates from our tortillas. We are getting great protein from our ground turkey, as well as a little bit of our Greek yogurt. It's going to contribute some protein as well. Perfect. It almost looks like a slice of pie. Now for the best part, and I'm so sorry that I can't share this with you all, but now it's the taste test time. Going to slide my yogurt so I can get a better bite. I'll bring my camera down a bit so that way you can see a little bit better. There we go. Better view. Better view of the final product. There we go. All right. Give it a cut. I'm gonna cut a couple of these. Perfect. Toppings are totally optional, but always fun to include. Let's make sure we get some avocado on this. Right, first bite. It's amazing how the tortillas add just this underlying flavor and make it seem a bit heartier. I can't really describe it. You can't necessarily taste it, but they absorb the sauce so well that they are a great vehicle for the sauce. Super delicious. I'm someone that does not like to repeat meals, but I have made this recipe 2 times in the past month. Well, in December, I should say, because it is so easy, balanced, nutritious, but delicious. Super, super good. Does anyone have any questions? I am going to go ahead and end the recording. I just want to thank WellSense for sponsoring today's class, and I will stay on for anyone else that has questions. So just hold tight.